we're going to conclude our program with the final presentation from Rabbi Paysach Krohn. Rabbi Krohn was supposed to be our Shabbos HaGodol guest, but due to COVID-19, we weren't able to have Rabbi Krohn with us. Rabbi Krohn, as many of you know, is a fifth-generation Moel and
you connect this
orators in the Orthodox Jewish community today, well known for his book on Bris Milah, and as well as his famous series of books, The Maggid Speaks. And we've asked Rabbi Krohn to end this wonderful session with Divrei Chizuk. We've called it Shavuot, Sinai, and Solidarity. Without any further ado, Rabbi Paysach Krohn.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Muskin. It is such a great honor for me to be able to come back, in a sense, to your wonderful community. The last time that I was at your community, it was before you had the new shul, and I was so much looking forward to seeing your beautiful edifice that you have, but I hope that Be'ezus Hashem, that we will be able to do it in the future. So I thank you, and I thank all the officers of the Young Israel of Century City for inviting me once again to come to speak to all of you just a few days before the Yontif of Shavuos. And as you mentioned, the topic is Sinai, Shavuos, and Solidarity. And so I would like to begin by telling you something fascinating. Rebbe Chanan Wasserman, who was the great tzaddik who lived in Europe, and we all know who died, Al Kiddush Hashem, he actually studied in the yeshiva of Radin. And one of his Rebbeim obviously was the Chavetz Chaim. And in one of his Svarim, in the Kovetz Ha'aros, he writes that he once asked the Chavetz Chaim a very interesting question. All of us are certainly familiar with the situation in the Torah where all of a sudden Yaakov is confronted with a malach. The pasuk tells us in Bereshis Lamed Beis Chaf Hei, Vayevose Yaakov levadoi, Yaakov was left alone, Vayeovek Ishimoi, and a man fought with him, and we know that that was a malach, that was the angel. Now, Rabbi Chanan asked a question. If the angel was trying to get rid of one of the patriarchs, why did he wait till Yaakov? Why didn't he start a fight with Avraham Avinu? Why didn't he start a fight with Yitzchak? What was he waiting for? What was so special about fighting with Yaakov Avinu? Now, I want to tell you the answer that the Chavetz Chaim gave, the way he gave it. Now, I understand that not everybody understands Yiddish, but to me, Yiddish is the Mama Lashon, and so I'm going to say it exactly how Rabbi Chanan repeated it from the Chavetz Chaim, and then, of course, I'm going to translate. And he said like this. He writes, Rabbi Chanan writes, V'chein shamati mipeh kodesh. This is what I heard from the holy mouth of the Chavetz Chaim. B'zeh haloshen, the Yetzirah sa'artem nit as a yid can fasten, can weinen, can davnen a ganze Tag a binit lernen. The Yetzirah, it doesn't bother him. Let a Jew daven a whole day. Let a Jew fast all day. Let a Jew do anything he could do, chesed, whatever he wants, as long as he doesn't learn. And that's why Avraham Avinu represented the midah of chesed, as we all know. Yitzchak represented the midah of yiras Hashem and avodah, but Yaakov represented Torah. And Torah, the Chavetz Chaim said, is the ammunition of Klal Yisrael. And when you are fighting a battle against someone, as long as they still have a residue of ammunition, they can still come back and fight you. And that's why the Malach knew that the only way that Klal Yisrael could have a kiyum, could have an existence, is if they have Torah, if they learn Torah and they teach Torah and they give over Torah from one generation to the other. That's the reason why the Malach fought specifically with Yaakov Avinu. And all of us, as we come now just a few hours, a few days before Shavuos, this is what our goal has to be. It's Sinai, and it's Shavuos, and as we will see, solidarity. But the idea is, if the idea is Kabbalah Satira. Now, in many shuls throughout the world, and I'm sure it could be in your shul as well, of course, during Simchas Torah, right between the Hakafas, many fathers do this, and many older siblings pick up the little children and they raise them up in the air and they sing Moshe Emes V'Seirasa Emes. And the kids look forward to it. They're heaved up in the air and the parents and the fathers catch them. And it's a time of frolic between the Hakafas. Moshe Emes V'Seirasa Emes. But I'll tell you something interesting that occurred to me. Even if you write the word emes in English, E-M-E-S, there's something to teach us what Torah is all about. E stands for it elevates us. The Torah, when we learn Torah, it does elevate us. M, it motivates us. It's inspirational to all of us. E, it educates us. And S, it separates us. So even in English, Torah is Torah's emes. It elevates us, it motivates us, it educates us, and it separates us. That's what makes us the Am HaNivchar. That's what makes us special, different than all the nations. Many nations do chesed. Many nations care for their children and grandchildren, but no one has Torah. This makes us different. And that's why this yontif of Shavuos, each and every one of us has to make a specific commitment to Kabbalah Satira, and especially during these difficult times, to make a Kabbalah Satira as we've never made it before. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And so I want to show you something fascinating, something that the Zohar HaKadosh tells us. Take a look at this. I hope that you can see it. You see the word Yisrael. And you know what? We all know how to spell Yisrael. Yud, Shin, Osin, Reish, Aleph, Lamed. And you know what the Zohar HaKadosh says? You know what that word Yisrael stands for? And of course, that's all of us. Yesh, Shishim, Ribui, Oisios, La Torah. Let me repeat that. Yesh, Shishim, Ribui, Oisios, La Torah. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. Why 600,000? And you know what the Zohar says? Because that's how many men were at Har Sinai. Now, of course, if you count the children and you count the wives, so of course you count the women. So then, of course, there were over 1 million people at Har Sinai. But there were 600,000. And that's what Yisrael is all about. And if that's the case, to me, there are 3 very, very important lessons. If we as one are one big collective Sefer Torah, that's what the Zohar is saying. Yisrael is that Sefer Torah. Yeshishim ribu oisios la Torah. Now I want to show you 3 very important lessons about Yisrael being the Torah, all of us being a collective Sefer Torah. If somebody is in shul and they're leaning, and all of a sudden the Baal Korah realizes, oh my gosh, there's 1 letter in the Torah that's missing, then the whole Torah is flawed. You could have 100,000 letters that are perfect. But if there's 1 letter that's missing, then you can't use that Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah is flawed. And you know what that teaches me? That all of us, every single one of us, in Los Angeles, in New York, Milwaukee, Chicago, wherever you have Yidden in Florida, if there's 1 Yid out there that's not fulfilling his role of what being a Jew is all about, it's a question on all of us. It's like a letter that's missing in the Sefer Torah. Now, sometimes it's very sad because that person may not have had great parents as role models. They may not have had the opportunity that we had to have wonderful mentors and teachers, but that letter's missing. And if there's any letter, any Yid that's missing out there, it's our obligation. And you know what that teaches me? Kiruv is not only for Or Sameach and Eish HaTorah and all those wonderful Kiruv organizations. Kiruv is all of us. Who here does not have a second or third cousin that's not religious? Who doesn't have a neighbor, a Jewish neighbor that's not religious. What are we doing about it? That's like a letter that's missing in the Sefer Torah. We have to think about that. That's like one letter missing, and then all of us, it's a question on all of us. That's the first thing. The second lesson that I think is so imperative is that no two letters can overlap. If you have two letters in the Torah and one is touching the other, it's overlapping. Torah is puzzle. You can't use a Sefer Torah that has letters that are overlapped. You know what that teaches me? That each and every one of us has a role to play. I don't have to be like Rabbi Muskin. Rabbi Muskin doesn't have to be like me. And both of us don't have to be like anybody that's listening today. Everybody has a role. Hashem created each and every one of us. Somebody once told me this on my birthday. I couldn't get over it. He said, the day you were created, that was the day God decided that the world can no longer exist without you. And all of you, my brothers and sisters out there that are listening, think about that for yourself. The day you were created, that's the day that Hashem decided the world can no longer exist without you. That means every man, woman, and child listening to this Zoom session has a role to play. Nobody can overlap your role. Everybody has a different mindset. Everybody has a different focus on what they can accomplish. Everybody's got a different set of talents. So the first lesson is every Jew counts. Every letter in the Torah counts. The second lesson is none of us overlap. And here's the third one. Isn't it amazing that in the English language, we have words that have one letter, I, A. There's no such thing in the Hebrew language. In the Torah, there's not one word that has only one letter. Some people will say, Hal Hashem Tigmul Uzais. It's not really a word. But the point is, you know what that teaches me? We need each other. No one can do it alone. We need each other. So every Jew is important. Every Jew has a role to fulfill. And we need each other. We can't do it alone. That's why the minimum amount of letters in the Sefer Torah for a word is 2 letters to show us that we need each other. We've got to get along with each other. That's the solidarity part. It's Sinai, it's Shavuot, and it's solidarity. We need each other. Now, I want to tell you an amazing thing. You know, in the early 1900s, there was a great tzaddik who was writing a commentary on the Yerushalmi. His name was Rabbi Yaakov David Wilofsky. He was known as the Ritvaz. And he came to New York to raise funds for his sefer. He didn't have enough funds to be able to print his commentary on the Yerushalmi. So I want to show you a book. You see, he also came to give chizuk to a rabbi who was having a very, very hard time. This rabbi was known as Rabbeinu Yaakov Yosef. You see, this book that I'm holding up, I hope that you can see it. It's called the Rav HaKolel. HaKolel means all-inclusive. Rabbeinu Yaakov Yosef was a rabbi of 18 different shuls in New York. And he had a hard time, especially with kashrus. He tried to bring higher standards of kashrus, and the Butchers Union didn't let him live. And they made it very, very rough for him. And the Ritvaz came to New York in the early 1900s to give chizuk to Rabbeinu Yaakov Yosef. But in the Pike Street Shul, in the Lower East Side, some of you who have been to New York know that there's a huge shul. It was called the Pike Street Shul. That's where, by the way, I remember I was there, at least outside, by the Levaya of Rabbi Aaron Cutler. And the Ponevezh Rav who spoke had to come outside because he was a Kohen. He couldn't come into the shul. But in the Pike Street Shul in the early 1900s, the Ritvaz spoke. And you know what he said? When he was talking to all the Jews in general. In his general drasha, he said, let me tell you something about the history of Klal Yisrael. He said, in some generations, we had what's called mitzvah yidden. They were yidden, they were so careful in kashrus. But the other things, they really didn't observe that much. And they didn't give it over to the next generation, that the generations should be religious and carry on Yiddishkeit. Some then observed Shabbos. but there was no Torah. They didn't learn Torah. And some used to go to Minyan, but then they would go to work on Shabbos. So you had mitzvah yidden. Some generations they did tefillah, some Shabbos, some kashrus. But unless they had Torah, to learn Torah, to teach Torah, and to transmit Torah to their generations, the generations were lost. And all of you know, the reason that Torah exists in Los Angeles, in New York, in Milwaukee, in all the big cities, Chicago, is because of the yeshivos that are there, and the Beis Yaakovs that are there, the girls' schools and the boys' schools. And when you have the wonderful machanchim, and the wonderful principals, and the wonderful rabbonim that encourage all of us to send our children to these type of yeshivas and girls' schools, then we have a future generation. That's what we have to understand. That's what Kabbalah HaTorah is all about. To understand that we have to be attached to the Torah, and we have to be willing to give it over to the next generation, because that's the only way that it's going to go on and continue. I want to tell you an adorable story. An adorable story. Rabbi Shmuel Blech once told this story. He said there was a community where they wanted to have a Sefer Torah written. Now, many of you, I'm sure in Los Angeles, you've had this as well. What happens is that all the people get together, and as the Sefer Torah is being finished, many of the men can come in and they'll write a letter with the Sefer Torah. Many people will like to write a letter of their first name, like I've done the letter Pei for Paysach numerous times. But the women also wanted to be involved. So the rabbi said, I'll tell you what the women could do. Why doesn't each one, we'll have a contest. We'll have a contest who could make the nicest cover. In Yiddish, it's called a mantel. We'll make a mantel for the Sefer Torah, and the women will make different ones, and we'll use all of them, of course. But the one that's the prettiest one, the one that wins the prize, that's the one we're going to put on this Torah when we bring it in the first time into the shul. Some will use on Shabbos, some Rosh Chodesh, some with Yom Tov. We'll use them. Anybody who makes one will definitely be used. But the prettiest one, that's the one we're going to use the day we bring in the Sefer Torah with great pomp and fanfare, as all of you have experienced. Sure enough, one lady made one, and it was so beautiful. It was purple, and it was with the lions and the mountains. And after they finished writing the Sefer Torah, they put out all the mantlach on a long table, and the rabbis looked them over and decided which one was the best. Now, they picked out this purple one, the one that the lady made with the mountains and the lions. It was beautiful. Well, they picked up the Sefer Torah. You wouldn't believe what happened. They picked up the Sefer Torah and they put the mantle over the Sefer Torah. It was too short. She thought the Torah was only going to be 36 or 40 inches. It was 45 inches. And now it was too short. And the Rabbanim took a look at this. They said, we can't use this. Take it off quickly. It's embarrassing. And she was right up there. And she said, wait a second. This is the one that I made. You said it was the nicest one. They said, yes. You're going to have to lengthen it. At another time, I will use it Shabbos and Yom Tov, but we can't use it now. She said, oh, but my whole family's here. This is so embarrassing that it was too short. They said, but it's not our fault. It was made too short. You didn't find out how long the parchment was going to be with the Atzei HaChaim. She said, wait a second. I have an idea. Put it on. I'll show you how it could fit. And the rabbis put it on. And she said, it's no problem. Just cut the Torah. Then it'll fit. Now, of course, this is a parable. It's a ridiculous story, right? You're not going to cut the Torah to make it fit. That doesn't make sense. But you know something? Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we cut the Torah to fit our lifestyle. If we have to go out on a Saturday night and wherever we have to go, we're going to be late. So we cut Shabbos a little bit early. Or sometimes if we're traveling out of town, remember when we used to travel on planes, right? And you travel out of town and the kashrut standards are not the highest the way you have it in Los Angeles. Baruch Hashem, in Los Angeles, you have the highest standards of kashrut. But somebody's traveling someplace and The standards are not there. He doesn't have the exact hashkochas that it should have. So he's going to cut corners. That's like cutting the Torah. We cannot do that. We've got to make a commitment this Shavuos that we are going to accept the Torah and we are going to adjust our life to the life of the way the Torah wants us to live. And so I want to tell you something fascinating. Let's talk now about the practical way that each and every one of us can be makabel the Torah and have a long and a wonderful life. You know, every night we say in Ma'ariv these words, Kihem chayenu ve'orech yameinu. Kihem chayenu, they are our lives, the words of the Torah and the mitzvahs, ve'orech yameinu, and the length of days. What's the secret? How do you get to live long? Everybody wants to live long. Everybody wants to observe the Torah and live long, but how do you do that? Watch this. I'm going to show you now a fascinating Gemara. Take a look when you get a chance later. Megillah Chav Zayin Amud Beis, 27b in your Art Scroll Gemara, in Megillah. And the Gemara asks a question to 28 different Amoraim. 28 people were asked the same question. How'd you live long? Boy, wouldn't we want to know the answer to that question? How did you live long? What a great question. Let's watch the answers. And you know something? When I was learning the Gemara, it was very confusing to me. There's 28 different answers. How in the world? What do you choose? Everybody wants to live long. Let me give you some examples, and we're going to see something fascinating. The first answer is, Miyamai, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shmuel said, all my days, Loya Sisi Kapandria La Paysach Knesses. I never used the Paysach Knesses as a shortcut. Now, for example, let's say you're going from Avenue A to Avenue B, right? And it's raining. So you're going to go through the shul, you're going to make a shortcut so you don't have to walk all the way around the block. Now, sometimes, even if it's not raining, you just don't feel like walking the long block all the way around, so you cut through the shul. Rabbi Eliezer ben Shmuel said, I never, ever made a shortcut through the shul. The next Madiyama said, Lekidmani Adam Lebeis HaMedrash. Nobody ever came to shul before I did. I was always the first one to be in shul. The next one said, Miyomai, all my days, Vatran B'mamaydi Hagisi. I was so generous with my money. I wasn't a stickler. If somebody owed me something, I was a Vatran. I was ready to give in. Another one said, Loiki nisi miyamai, all my days, Loiki nisi shame l'chaveiroi. I never called anybody by a derogatory nickname. Now, many of us call people by nicknames. And, you know, sometimes they're derogatory, but the guy's used to it, so he doesn't say anything. Or she's used to it. So, but she really doesn't like it. But people, they got used to it. Ever since he was a child, people called him by that name. Or people called him by that name. He said, I never called anybody by a nickname. And in Yeridea and in Shulchan Aruch, it says it means a derogatory nickname. And then another one says, I never got angry in my home. So, okay, so now I ask you, right? We're all sitting here in the comfort of our homes, and we're getting to Shavuos, and we all want to live long. How are you going to choose? You got 28 different ways. How are you going to choose it? Now, watch this. Rabbi Cheskel Monk should be well, one of the former Rosh Hashivas in Cleveland, and showed me this netziv, which is worth its weight in gold. Take a look in Bamidbar, Perik Tezvav Pasuk Mem Aleph, in the commentary of the Hamikdavar, and listen to what he says. He says, every one of us is different. Everyone serves Hashem in a different manner. Some love learning, and even the learning. Some love Bekiyas, to cover a lot of ground. Some like Iyun, depth and understanding. Some love to serve Hashem with the mitzvah of Shabbos, or the mitzvah of Tzitzis, or the mitzvah of Tefillah. Everybody has a different way of connecting to Hashem. And he says it doesn't make a difference. Whatever you feel that you make that connection, that's what you should do. And then he says like this. He says, Kol ha'oiseh mitzvah achas, he's quoting Yerushalmi. Anybody who does a mitzvah, meitivin loy u'ma'arichin loy yamav, Good things will happen to him. He's going to have long days. And then, but there's a caveat. Mi sheyichad loy mitzvah v'loy ovar oleha mi'olam. Somebody who chooses a mitzvah and never, ever violates it. Now, let's go back to the Gemara. Every single one of those 28, you know what they all said? They all said the same thing. Miyomai, all my days, I never made a shortcut through the shul. All my days, nobody ever came to shul before I did. All my days, I never got angry in the house. And you know what the Sefer Hasidim says? Take a look. Take a look. Now, one of those things is a deraisa. It's not a deraisa to be the first one in shul. It doesn't say in the Torah you got to be the first one in shul. It doesn't say in the Torah that you can't make a shortcut through the shul. But look at that. You know why they lived long? Because there was consistency. That's the word. That's the word that all of us have to accept on this Kabbalah Satira and this Shavuos. And that's what the Netziv goes on to say. Every one of us connects to Hashem in a different way. Every man and woman, I'm begging you, think about it between now and Shavuos. Make up your mind. From now on, I'm going to do something. It doesn't even have to be a deraisa. The Sefer Hasidim in Siman Reish Yud, number 210 says, you see a Talmud Chacham living long, you know why? Because he undertook a mitzvah and he does it every single day without fail. And it doesn't have to be a deraisa. It's a good midah. But that midah, that characteristic that connects him to Hashem, that's what gives him long life. Now, I don't know how many of you ever saw or knew of Rabbi Pinchas Scheinberg. Rabbi Pinchas Scheinberg was a tremendous Talmud Chacham, Rosh Yeshiva of Torah and Eretz Yisrael. He wrote many, many svarim. He lived to be over 100. At his 100th birthday, they made a big dinner for him, and they asked me to be the guest speaker. And I said, why is it that Rabbi Scheinberg merited to live over 100 years? And I said, perhaps, if you ever saw pictures of him, he wore many, many pairs of tzitzis. Now, it can't be that that was a deoraisa to wear all those tzitzis, because otherwise Rabbi Yashav would have done it. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach would have done it. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein would have done it. But that was his mitzvah. And he did it every day. And if he did it every day, he merited living a long life. So now I want to give you some suggestions. What I would say is that each and every one of us, think about this. Let's make up our minds from today on, right? Memorial Day 2020, on Monday, the before Shavuos, we're going to think about something that may not be a deraisa, but we are going to make a Kabbalah Satira. From now on, we are always going to bench in a sitter. Doesn't say in the Torah you have to bench in a sitter. But if right now you undertake, this is my Kabbalah Satira for this year, of course I'm going to do all the other mitzvahs. But this is my Kabbalah. I am not going to miss benching in a sitter from now on. I'll carry with me a little bencher. Here's the second thing. From now on, I'm going to say brachas out loud. Doesn't say in the Torah you got to say a bracha out loud. But when you say a bracha out loud and other people answer amen, the word amen is equal 91. And the word malach, an angel that's protecting us, is equal 91. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said that. Sounds like a Hasidic word, right? But you make up that you, from now on, you're going to say brachas out loud. And I must tell you, in this quarantine period, my wife and I, of course, we should have been doing it all these years, but now we do it. It's only me and her at home. We say brachas out loud so each one of us can answer amen. And I'll tell you another thing. The only reason I'm telling it to you is because when you see me next time, you ask me, are you still doing it? And I'm going to be forced to say yes, hopefully. And that is, I decided since I am home, I'm going to stand when I say karbonos in the morning. I'm a big believer of saying karbonos. But I undertook that bli neder. I'm going to stand when I say karbonos. It doesn't say in the Torah you got to stand when you say karbonos. But the point is, you want to do something extra. You want to make a connection to Hashem. Here's another thing. I believe every person should stand in one place when they say Ashiyotzar. And make your children do the same thing. Tell them about it. Do I have to tell you what the bracha Ashiyotzar is all about? We have a heart, we have a colon, we have a kidney, We have so many things. A windpipe, the food pipe. There's so many things that are going on in our bodies. The whole blood system, the circulatory system, the digestive system. When do we ever thank Hashem for that? We take it for granted. God forbid somebody can't breathe. Do I have to tell you how many people have been on ventilators? When was the last time you thanked Hashem? Thank you, Hashem. I'm not on a ventilator. I'm not on a respirator. I'm breathing on my own. I can walk around the block and I'm breathing on my own. When do we thank Hashem? By Ashiyotza. That's what you thank. And maybe you should stand in one place. And I'll tell you the truth. I started talking about that. And one lady called me up. She said, you know, Rabbi Krohn, you're right. Don't we say, that if Hashem didn't help us, we wouldn't be able to stand in front of you. And you know what the Vilna Gaon says? You wouldn't believe it. The Vilna Gaon says, in Ashiyotza, that's the only bracha, the only of all the brachas, not Shofar, not Megillah, not Matzah, nothing, that we mention Kisei Kavaydecha. The highest throne, the highest place of holiness in the world. The Gaon says, you know why? Because even from up there, God's watching us. He's watching us do the mundane things. It's almost embarrassing to talk about Ashiyotza. But maybe that's the Kabbalah Satorah this year. Every one of us. The fact that the Young Israel of Century City has made this gathering before Kabbalah Satorah, we have to make a personal Kabbalah. Every one of us. It could be a small thing. It's a way you attach to Hashem. We're not saying a deraisa, as the Sefer Hasidim says, but let's make that Kabbalah Satorah. Just want to tell you one more thing, and then we'll end with a great, great thought. You know, the Torah tells us that there was a prerequisite at Har Sinai. Vayichan Shom Yisrael. Klal Yisrael rested there. Now we all know the famous Rashi. Rashi says it should have said Vayachanu. They rested, right? Didn't we hear before? There were 600,000 people, 600,000 men. So what do you mean? Vayichan, they rested. They rested as together. Vayachanu. They all rested. It wasn't one person that rested. So Rashi tells us Ki ish echad b'lev echad. They were all united. And the Ksav Sefer in Vayikra Chafei, Pasuk Aleph from Parshas Bahar tells us, you know why there has to be solidarity? Because you and I know we live in America, right? There are some mitzvahs you could only do in Eretz Yisrael. So how are we observing those mitzvahs? Only if we have the solidarity. We love the people in Israel and we give them chizuk and we support them. So we support those people that are doing mitzvahs in Eretz Yisrael. So we have a chelik in it. And even in Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, Milwaukee, wherever you got going in, there's certain mitzvahs that only they can do. But if we have solidarity with them and we encourage them and we work with them and we love them and they love us, so they have a chelik of our mitzvah, we have a chelik in their mitzvah. Don't they have a mitzvah blessing us? But we can't do that. But if we give them encouragement, so then we have a chelik in that mitzvah. That's the solidarity. And that's what Shavuos is. That's what Sinai is. And that's what the solidarity is all about. So I just want to tell you this thing we'll review and end with a great thought. You know, the Pasuk tells us, V'chol ha'am royin es ha'kolos. That's the Pasuk in Shemais Chof, Pasuk Tezvav. All the people saw the sounds. What do you mean, saw the sounds? You can't see a sound. Rashi tells us, royin es ha'nishma, she'i efshe lirois b'mokam acher. There was never, ever in the history of the world that you could see sound. That's what Rashi's telling us. Royim es hakolos, they saw the voice. But I once heard a fabulous word from a Hasidic Rabbi who said, you want to be able to give over Torah to your children? Royim es hakolos. They have to see that which you speak. If you speak and tell them to come on time to shul, you got to come on time to shul. Royim, they have to see es hakolos, what you're talking about. You want to tell them, don't join a Kiddush club? Then you don't belong in a Kiddush club. You want to tell them, don't talk during Kriyas HaTorah? Then you can't talk during Kriyas HaTorah. Royin es hakolos. They have to see that which you say. Now, today, when this quarantine, they see us the way we act, the way we speak to our spouses, the way we speak to the other children, the way we speak about other people. There can be a lot of frustration today. There's no question. It's not easy to be quarantined and be cooped up in the house all the time. So now we have a way of teaching our children. How do you daven? How do you daven when you're alone? How do you learn when nobody's looking? That's the Royanas HaKolos. And that's what Kabbalah Satira is all about. We have to be role models. Very, very important. Now, I don't know how it's working in Los Angeles, but there are some shuls that are getting permission from the governor to open. So there's going to be less and less davening at home, because now people can make backyard minyanim in New York. We couldn't do it for all these 7 weeks. Now it's starting. And hopefully, that this Shabbos, which will be, of course, Shavuos, there'll be able to be some minyanim in shul. They're beginning to talk about it. I hope that in LA, you're able to do that same thing. But whatever it is, we have to make sure. We have to make sure there's no fights. We have to make sure that we get along with each other. We have covered Rabbanim, and that we have covered our Torah, because the children have to be Royanas HaKolos. So let's review everything that we said, and we'll end with a great thought. Let's remember, as we said, why did the Malach fight with Yaakov? Because Yaakov represents Torah. Torah is our ammunition. A yid, as the Chavetz Chaim said, could fast and cry and do chesed all day, but if he's not learning, then that's what the Yetzer Hara wants, because that's the only way we can give it over. As the Ridvaz told us in early New York in the early 1900s, mitzvah yidden are wonderful, but that's not what's going to carry it. It's only the study of Torah and giving over of Torah. As we said, Yisrael stands for Yesh Shishim Ribu Oisiyos La Torah. 600,000 letters in the Torah. Let's take a look at it once again. 600,000. We're all one big Sefer Torah. If one yid out there is missing, it's a question on all of us. No two yidden overlap. We each have a role to play. Don't look at yourself so humble that you're not significant. Every one of you is significant. The fact that you are alive today, God chose you. And God created you because he knew the world can't exist without you. We have a great role to play, and we can't do it alone. In the Torah, there's no word that has only one letter. Let's remember, we can't cut short the Sefer Torah, like that adorable story about the lady who wanted to cut the Torah. We have to adjust our lives to Torah lives. And people like Rabbi Muskin and people like the other Chashuv Rabbanim in LA, they will tell you exactly what the Torah means and how the life we are supposed to lead. Undertake something. It doesn't have to be a deraisa, but undertake something. Davening in a sitter, saying Ashiyot are in one place, saying brachas out loud, whatever it is, you come up with the idea and call me and let me know. And I'll use you in the next speech as an example of something that people undertook for their Kabbalah Satira, their personal Kabbalah Satira. As the Netziv tells us in Parshat Tzitzis at the end, you take a look at it. You'll see every Jew is different. We each relate to Hashem different, b'yomai, but it's got to be consistent. And then finally, we're all in it together. Ki ish echad b'lev echad. I just want to end just with this thing. There's a very, very beautiful poetic pasuk that is written in the Torah right at Har Sinai. And let us see what the Kotzker Rebbe does with this pasuk in Drush and homiletics. So totally different than the pasuk itself. But what a great, great lesson. Pasuk tells us in Shmos Yutes pasuk at Beis, V'higbalta es ha'am savir, the nation should encircle the mountain. And Moshe Rabbeinu was told, Yishamru v'chem, be careful. Hashem says to Moshe, tell the people, Alois Bahar, about going up on the mountain, or Nogaya b'katzeu, if they even touch the mountain. Anybody who touches the mountain is going to die. It's so holy, you cannot touch this mountain. But let us watch now what the Kotzker Rebbe said. Totally different, but what a great thought to leave us with as we approach the holy Yontif of Shavuos. He said many, many times people in life undertake a project. They want to climb the mountain. But then what happens is they get a little older, they get tired, and they get burned out. And they say, you know something, I did my share. Let somebody else take over. No, 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 that's not how it is. Listen to this. This is how he touched it. He said, Hishomer lechem, be very careful, halois bahar. When you're undertaking a project, you want to finish a project. Kol hanagia bahar. If you just touch the mountain and you don't get to the top, oh yeah, I don't even want to finish the Paysach. That's not what life is all about. Life is undertaking a project and finishing it. Undertaking a certain Masechta and finish the Masechta. Don't learn 10 blot in this Masechta and 10 blot in this Masechta and 30 Mishnayos in this Parsha, in this Gemara, in this Masechta. Undertake a project and finish it. You're going to learn the Rashi of this Parsha, learn all the Rashis, even if you miss the next week. But you undertook something, you're going to finish it. We got a big job. Hashem is making demands on us, no question about it. We're being tested. How are we going to be makabel the Torah this year? You know something? Every one of us should be makabel something. Let's reach the top of the mountain in that aspect of what we are makabel. Don't forget, Kabbalah HaTorah and Bein Adam L'Chaveroi. That was the prerequisite. You know something? At Har Sinai, everybody was healed. Rashi tells us. There were no blind people because it says everybody saw. There were no deaf people because everybody heard. And there were no lame people or dumb people because it says everybody spoke. And if that's the case, Har Sinai was a place of healing. That's my blessing to all of us. This year, let us be makabel the Torah. Let us reenact Har Sinai. Solidarity. Let's love each other and care for each other. Let's be makabel the Torah. And then once again, Har Sinai, Shavuos, will be a time of healing. So all those throughout the world, all the Jews throughout the world, in Eretz Yisrael, in America, wherever they may be, will all have healing as we need it so desperately. Refuos and Yeshuos. Let Har Sinai, let us reenact that Har Sinai. Not only with Kabbalah HaTorah and Achdus, but also healing. Hashem should bless that we should be able to get together with Freilich HaHerzer, with happy hearts in Eretz Yisrael, be able to sing and dance and hold on to each other. Rabbi Muskin, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank all of you for listening.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Krohn, for your inspiring words. We want to thank all of the presenters, Rabbi Dr. J.J. Schachter, Rabbi Dr. Avram Steinberg, Rabbi Yosef Rimon, Rabbi Shani Terrigan, Rabbi Dr. Eddie Reichman, and Rabbi Krohn. We want to also thank the Goldsteins, the Eisenbergs, and the Kriegers for allowing us to have this inspiring day. Everybody should have a wonderful rest of the day and stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much. Kol Tuv.